Hello, it's Dr. Patricia Coughlin again. In the past couple of videos, we've been talking about the importance of working with the patient's complex mixed feelings and how to use what we call a portrait or visualization to facilitate the full experience of these feelings and impulses in a safe and therapeutic manner. The particular feeling that I want to discuss with you today is guilt. I think there's a huge misunderstanding about guilt, not only in our culture at large, but also very much in the mental health field. It kind of reminds me of the misunderstanding around anger that unfortunately I think is still there. In fact, Carol Travis wrote a book long ago called Anger, the Misunderstood Emotion. So if you remember, this was decades ago where they did research suggesting that anger was associated with high blood pressure and heart attacks and things like this. And they were failing to distinguish between the actual feeling of anger and the tendency to act out or discharge anger with temper fits, right? We would see that as a defense against the experience of anger, and it's that tendency to discharge anger that is associated with the negative health consequences. Similarly, I think we often confuse the actual experience of guilt with self-punishment, which is actually a defense against the experience of guilt. So let's dive into this. What is guilt? Guilt is actually a feeling that has been selected for in evolution. It is a healthy feeling. Okay, guilt is not unhealthy. Remember, only narcissists and psychopaths don't experience anxiety, guilt, and shame, right? So guilt is built in so that we won't, hopefully, if it's working right, even thinking about wanting to harm someone we care about or even harming a stranger would evoke guilt. Guilt is tied to love and concern. In fact, Winnicott talked about guilt being a developmental achievement. It's getting out of one's narcissism. It's being concerned with the welfare of another. It's also far more mature than shame. Shame, again, is about the self. I feel bad about me, right? So again, the ability to, I also feel really bad that I have hurt, betrayed, robbed, whatever, this other person. So again, you can see that feeling guilt is healthy. It's mature. And if we allow ourselves to experience that as we're thinking about seeking revenge or hurting somebody or just gossiping and saying something nasty, hopefully it will prevent us from doing that. Okay? So it prevents us from harming others. If it doesn't serve that function and we actually do something that's harmful, feeling that guilt, again, is tied to love and concern and would motivate us in a healthy situation to acknowledge, apologize, and repair. And we know that in healthy relationships, it's all about the repair. It's not about being perfect. We're going to step on each other's toes. We're going to hurt each other intentionally, unintentionally. But being able to tolerate that guilt, I think it's the hardest emotion for us to bear, right? That we are nasty, right? That we can be destructive. To feel that guilt so that we can actually do something to make it right. It's such a painful feeling that we're highly motivated to avoid it. And we do that in two primary ways. Either by rationalizing, justifying, minimizing, I shouldn't feel guilty. Why should I feel guilty? I have a right, blah, blah, blah. Right? So we will minimize and justify to get away from that guilt. Or we go in the other direction and punish ourselves for whatever it is we did in a whole variety of ways, consciously and unconsciously, berating ourselves, filling ourselves with depression, tension, pain, right? Now notice neither one of these is a healthy way to deal with guilt. It doesn't help the person that you've harmed, right? It's all about you, either getting yourself off the hook and trying to avoid this painful feeling of guilt directly, or by simply punishing yourself. And there is an excellent article by Don Carveth. I will leave a link to it underneath here, on guilt and self-punishment. He really articulates the ways in which self-punishment is a guilt substitute. It is a defense against that awful, gut-wrenching feeling of guilt. Listen to what people say in everyday life. I'm sick about it, right? It's like a nauseating feeling when you really face your own destructiveness, right? And how you have harmed another, right? So it is a sick, terrible, awful feeling, which again, we like to avoid, but is absolutely necessary for healthy functioning, that we will own up to our own destructiveness, our limitations, and we do our best to prevent that in the future and also to apologize and repair. So this is an emotion we want to help patients experience and face. Therapists all too often try to talk patients out of feeling guilty. And again, rationalize, justify, you shouldn't feel bad, you shouldn't feel guilty, they did you wrong, and so on. This does not help the patient, and it certainly doesn't help the people around them. So I hope this can really trigger some deep thinking in your own mind about guilt as a healthy emotion, with, as in every other feeling, healthy or unhealthy ways to deal with that feeling. And that we want to help our patients who have mixed feelings, right? They want to kill the same person they love. That's going to evoke guilty feelings. So we want to help people expand and tolerate their ability to contain all those mixed feelings, right? And to find ways to repair broken relationships. So please respond. Let me know questions, ideas about this. Again, I'm going to leave the link to the Carveth article, which is really outstanding and I think will help clarify this issue even further. Thanks. Bye-bye.